announce or share? All right, sounds like we're going to get right into it. Welcome, Melinda. I saw you come in.
Hey, folks.
Hello, hello.
Hear me okay?
Into the slideshow.
Yeah.
Does anyone have anything they would? And I did not mute my device. Apologies for that. And bear with me here. Here we go. All right. If you're following along on my Zoom screen share, you should see our welcome slide. The same with our YouTube streams. Let me just get this working on my Loom pad real quick. And as I have been doing, or rather have not been doing for the past few months, I didn't randomize our images. We have 5 competitors tonight, and we will start off with one by Melinda, which is called Creating Carbon Composites. Where did this come from, Melinda?
I took this a long time ago. I think it was either a YouTube channel, Real Engineering, or Wendover Productions. They're kind of my 2 favorite in this genre, and they often have lots of lovely grabbing shots and of interesting subjects. And this one, I think they might be making an airplane wing, or maybe an airplane fuselage or something out of carbon fiber. And the camera motion was just about right. The one person in the upper left moved a little bit, so I had to fuss with him a bit. But I like the how it's backlit a lot in the bottom half.
Yeah, that light really draws my eye into the background. So the camera, this was a video, the camera was moving left to right.
Yep.
Tracking.
Yeah, very stable. So exactly what you'd want. And of course they were getting a good stereo effect, even if they didn't know that that's what they were doing.
Yeah, it is a great subject for it. The figure in the upper left area is kind of floating in space. At least he is on my screen.
Yeah, I think he's a little bit forward of the ledge there that he's standing in front of. So it was kind of the best I could without doing a lot of work.
Yeah, I think it's very
I guess
successful.
I could have given it another 5 minutes or so, but I was too lazy.
Well, it's unlikely they would have let you taken this shot on your own, so that's as close as we'll probably get to carbon fiber construction. Creating carbon composites is what they're doing. Okay, thanks, Melinda. We've got another one by you. High and Low is the title.
Yeah, same kind of thing. I took these snaps a long time ago, and this time I have no idea what that was from. I assume it's China. that's just a guess. Your guess is as good as mine. Um, I think I think it's like a drone. Unfortunately, it's kind of orbiting this hill a little bit, I think, but I think it turned out okay anyway. At least the background isn't painful. The the image quality is kind of weird. It's like very high contrast or blown out or something. I can't be sure. But I think I improved it a bit, but it's kind of it's got a weird kind of hazy effect. But I like the hyper stereo of the tiny buildings.
Does anyone
And
recognize this location, this region? Anyone care to identify it? How did you capture these, Melinda? Were these screenshots? Was this off of like a YouTube video or a disc?
yeah, these are all screenshots from YouTube. I did recently find a nice Chrome uh, extension for taking screenshots, and that has the amazing property that it captures only the original imagery and not any kind of decoration that YouTube puts on top, like the timeline and other stuff. Um, you'll see the result of another image later on that where I had to deal with something like that. But once I once I started using that feature, it's made it a lot easier and lets me get the entire full screen, and like not having to crop out the timeline and stuff is nice.
If you if you recall what it's called, and if you can, put a link to it in the chat.
Yeah, let me. All right,
Don't
I'll do that.
yeah, don't don't leave the meeting or anything if it's convenient for you. Um, what these look like they're very high resolution. Do you know what resolution these were captured at?
Yeah, they're just HD.
Okay, well, they look really sharp. Incidentally, speaking of the chat, at the beginning of the meeting, I forgot to put our links to our various streams, our channels, our poll, our downloads, all that. I think most everyone here is already familiar with these links, but if you're not, you can explore those as well.
Also, the sharpness is a bit of my Photoshop work, and also the contrast and things like that. Sometimes the videos lack a bit of punch. The like the previous one, I probably didn't have to do anything in that regard. It was very well lit, and the colors were nice and saturated. But I sometimes use my tricks to get better image quality. Also, the screenshotter is called Screenshot YouTube.
Screenshot YouTube.
2 words, yeah.
David Kuntz says Google Lens identifies this as Wangxian Valley. Thank you,
Wow,
David.
it sounds right. And that's China, right? It's got to be. It
I
sounds
think it
Chinese
is.
too.
Mystery solved. Well, at least,
Love it.
I like the way you're thinking, Belinda. You might not recognize what it is, but you notice the camera movement on top of anything else and realize what a fine stereo pair you could pull out of that.
Yeah, I always seem to to notice the opportunities now. I definitely encourage everybody to watch for those opportunities. Sometimes there's like there's exactly one opportunity in an entire movie or something, but when you find it, it can be very nice.
You just got to find those few frames, those two frames that work as a pair. Thank you, Melinda. Our next photo by Melinda, found stereo, is how the U.S. took over the world.
So this one is definitely from a YouTube video with that exact title. And I don't know what city this is or what they were talking about at the time. But yeah, it was a perfect, I mean, it was shot from a train, certainly. And it was a very excellent sort of sight line way into the center back there. So I like this composition a lot. I also cropped in a bit to sort of keep the eye more in the center of the image and not have it wander off to the sides. And the Photoshop work I did on it was pretty successful, and the underlying image quality was pretty good to start with too. So it all came together nicely.
Yeah, it looks very sharp. And it's a great hyper effect too.
It's hard to know how wide to go when you can choose whatever you like. I guess it's just an aesthetic choice.
Yeah, you really probably only have a handful of frames that you can choose from, right? Unless it's before it's too hyper or too narrow.
Uh, Sometimes, yes. It depends on the speed of the camera. In this case, there was plenty of time, so there's probably 10 or 20 images you could use. The real key I find is in YouTube. You can use the comma and the dot keys to go left and right by one key, by one frame at a time, and that's super helpful in that way.
Is that pretty precise?
Yeah, just to make that a little easier, the comma and the dot are actually the greater than, less than, so they look like arrows pointing to the left
Oh, okay.
pointing to the right, which is the direction. If you consider the film is running left to right, then you're going forward with the one arrow, going backwards with the other.
I never put that together. Yeah, it's just you need the shift key to get to the brackets, but
Well, yeah, you don't put but yeah, when you just glance at the key, that shows up pretty bigger than the comma and the period. So
yeah, that's a good point. Thanks for that.
I'm glad to help. What I do for this is I just download the whole movie, then I take it into a video editing program, and I feel like I have a little bit more control. It just automatically downloads it in the highest resolution. Actually, the program, which I mentioned last week, lets you choose which resolution you want to download it in. So you can even
that's definitely a big advantage. I like that idea a lot. I mean, since our maximum height is HD anyway, in some ways it doesn't matter, but it's always good to start with.
Yeah, you're not grabbing the screen, you're actually just downloading the actual video.
Yeah, and then I can downsample it and get some of the advantages.
And I use DaVinci Resolve, which is a free video editing program. Although
A
there
free
are
what?
a lot of free video, and I highly recommend it. It's in some ways more powerful than Premiere.
What's it called again?
DaVinci Resolve.
Hmm.
I give it my highest recommendation. It's an amazing program, hugely user-based, tons of videos, tutorial videos on it.
This is a free software, DaVinci Resolve.
Free software from a company called Black Magic something, Black Magic Machines or something like that. What it is that they have a really high-end program, which is only about $300, and it can render in 4K, and it has a few special effects that aren't available in the free version. But I've been able to do everything I need to do with the free version, and I know read a lot of user comments, and many people are able to do it. Supposedly, if you really want to get a deal on it, Black Magic, they sell video editing equipment to speed up the editing process. It's like a board. They also sell lights and things like that. If you buy certain equipment, you get the full $300 software for free. And apparently, like their edit bay, their edit board is like $450. So it's like getting that for $150, and then you get the $300 version of the software, which is still a great deal when you consider to use Premiere, you have to pay by the month.
Indeed, yeah. David notes that he watched a YouTube video by a former influencer for Adobe who ditched Premiere for DaVinci, saying it's 100 times better in every way.
Well, that's going a little far, but yeah, right away I noticed, because I like to cut out things. Premiere, I remember, you could soften the edge, which is great. DaVinci, you can soften the edge interactively. So you can animate it, or you can make it thinner at one place and thicker at the other, which is something I wanted the whole time I used Premiere. So it's very, very interactive, very fast.
And there's no subscription.
No subscription, just download the thing and use it.
And a question, does DaVinci have any kind of native 3D support?
Perfect question. The $300 version actually supports Stereo 3D. Now, I don't have that version. It's on my list of things to get, but I do have the one you recommended, Matt. So I do have a software that can handle 3D. So I'm not rushing to get it, but I'll probably end up getting that.
Well, that's good to know.
And I can't say how it works, but I read just recently that it said the $300 version has stereo capability.
Okay. Well, thank you, Steve. And thank you, Melinda. Before we move on, did anyone have any other comments about how the U.S. took over the world? We've got one more by Melinda. And by the way, Melinda, I did receive your alternate image. I used my... I just decided that the 4 that you had already submitted were superior, and so I stuck with those. But if you would like to show the 5th one, I can cue it up at the end.
Oh, sure. That sounds fine.
Yeah, it's a
thanks
really nice
for
image,
doing that.
but
I was unable to really judge my own work in that regard, so I appreciate that.
yeah. I didn't find any of your submissions this month to have any significant flaws, and I enjoyed them all, so I wasn't able to make that decision. But we'll pull it up. We'll cue it up at the end. The title of this one is The Martian. And is this from The Martian?
It is indeed. And it's one of the very few, maybe the only 3D image I got. And speaking of flaws, this one definitely has a flaw. I did a fair amount of work to cover it up. Can anybody guess where it is?
I'm assuming it's the car that's driving down in the valley.
Well, I did do some cloning to fix that, but I wouldn't call it a flaw. That's just, fixing the movement during a cha-cha.
I don't see a flaw, so
It's in the exact center of the image.
Oh yeah, you have to paint something out there.
Yeah, there's a play button. So when the video was stopped, it would put the button right in the middle. Which, come to think of it, that's not a YouTube thing. So I was probably watching this on another platform. Yeah. So I didn't have my snapshot tool, and I definitely wasn't going to try to time the screenshot to get a good snap. So I had to live with that ugly thing, and I more or less painted it out. Couldn't really use a rectangle like Matt's trick, but I kind of painted in a kind of blobby circular shape of brown, and got rid of it mostly, so it's not obvious anymore, but it was quite annoying.
And these are frames from a lateral camera move.
Yes.
Yeah, because
Although I'm sure
there is a 3D version of the movie. It'd be interesting to compare this version to that.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Yeah, the stereo base might be different, but otherwise it should be exactly the same.
Yeah.
But it's I'm sure it's 100% CGI.
I think this is Jordan, actually.
No way, really?
Yeah.
Huh. That's weird. The peaks
Probably with some sweetening.
Yeah, maybe they vertically enhanced it, because I just assumed that the steepness of the peaks was
Yeah, they made
an attempt at realism, due to the low gravity. But I was just guessing. I have no idea. And I kind of also assumed that they were trying to use the real topography too. Jordan, huh?
A lot of Mars movies have shot in Jordan over the years. Yeah.
Interesting.
Regarding the that play button that you cloned out, David notes that he's had good luck with Photoshop's generative fill for getting rid of that kind of thing. If your version of Photoshop has generative fill.
No, unfortunately, I have an older version, but
yeah.
Of course, if you just download the video, you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, I definitely don't want to have to do that again. I would probably be motivated to try your download trick.
Now, Melinda, have you seen The Martian in 3D?
I'm pretty sure I did. I was pretty excited when it came out. And I knew that I was going to say I knew that they did a proper job of the 3D, but now I don't trust my memory anymore. Tor,
I'm
sure
I'm
you
pretty
know.
sure I'm pretty sure native photography was native. On the actors at least.
Yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of simulated environments beyond that.
Sure, that part's easy though. But
I don't recall it being as impressive a 3D production as Prometheus, which was also Ridley Scott.
I don't think I saw that in 3D, but I think The Martian is a better subject for stereo because most of it is indoors.
I recall, well, this is one of my top 10 Blu-ray 3D discs in my collection, The Martian. The Martian is one that I like to pull out if I'm showing someone who is new to 3D or has had bad experiences with 3D. I think the 3D is generally very well done. And it's not as short as Gravity, which is my number one go-to 3D show-off movie, but it's quite good.
So just a comment. My go-to show-off 3D movie is Hugo.
Ah, it's a good one. Yeah, Scorsese.
I think I would go with Dial M for Murder.
Yeah,
For
Hitchcock's.
classics, I go Inferno.
I don't think I've seen that in 3D.
Oh, Inferno's fantastic.
Inferno is my favorite from the 50s. But yeah, my background is Hugo. That's my go-to.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, if we do another movie night, I would definitely love to see Inferno that way. It's certainly the only way I'm going to watch it.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Melinda. And that's something I'll talk about a little bit after the meeting. But I think some of us did receive an inquiry about availability for a get-together, probably at the end of the month. So that's something that we'll talk about after the slideshow, and maybe we can make it a movie night. That would be great.
Oh, cool.
We got some great titles here to talk about in any case. So yeah, thanks for reminding me, Melinda. I had forgotten to put that on my list. All right, well, thank you. Melinda, we'll take the spotlight off of you now and shine it on Steve. We've got 4 found stereo compositions from Steve. We're going to start with Baywatch Badasses.
Yeah, this is deliberately a bad one. This is one of these things called Super Panavision 50. I can't remember what they call it, but there's a whole series of these
It's AI, yeah.
AI trailers. They do it, AI can be amazing. But if you see there's like a growth on the guy in the background's arm, it's supposed to be a bush or something, but and this shot is maybe 1 second long, so it's really, really quick. I think it's 37 frames. So in the course of the film, you just don't even notice something like that. But once I converted it to 3D, I said, "Oh my God!" But I could have fixed it. But I said, "Well, let me just show. This is how AI interpreted." I'm pretty sure what they do is take a still picture, and then they just give it to the AI engine, and it figures out how to make it move based. It looks at movies that look similar to this, and what AI did was put a camera move in there. So you get some 3D motion and you get some flaws with that.
Oh, I love those trailers. And they do more modern movies too. They do like Fifth Element and almost any popular movie.
It's pretty amazing how many there are. I don't know if it's the same people doing them, but they crank those things out. And as you might expect, there's a law of diminishing return. The first one is like, look at this is amazing. And then it's like, oh, this again. So that is the issue with AI.
Well, it takes the creators very little work. It's all done by the AI. So they might as well just crank them out.
I was watching this program, I think it's called That's News to Me on HBO, which is like a game show that focuses on the news. And Amber Ruffin, who's a writer for Seth Meyers, they were quoting James Cameron saying, I like to use AI because he's fully invested in AI now. He says, because you can come up with things that you would never have thought of before. And I'm so glad Amber Ruffin stood up and said, it's the exact opposite because it uses what other people have done. So it's something that definitely somebody has thought of before. And so I really applauded her for not just accepting what James Cameron said at face value. I mean, James Cameron's a great director. He's done made great films, but I agree with Amber Ruffin on that one.
Yeah, but everybody stands on the shoulders of giants, right? There are no movie tropes that have never been done before. It's well, why is it okay that humans are always doing homages to other humans, but the AIs can't do it? I think that's kind of a chauvinism.
Well, I sort of faced that when I switched from traditional animation to computer animation. And people said you can't do that. That's computers are going to destroy animation, and obviously it breathed new life into it. But there was this sense that computers were doing the animation, but people were doing the animation. But now you literally do just say, here, Mr. Computer, make me a film, and I'd like it to have this and this and this in it. And so it's going to be derivative. Now, I think if you know how to manipulate it, if you know how, what to tell it, and then how to choose from the vast numbers of things that it spits out, you can probably come up with something really good. I don't know if it's going to be original.
To me,
unless, if you sit down and write something and say, here's my idea, and it's an original idea, and then you just use the AI to help you create your vision, could be. But if you just give it a picture like this that's based on something that already exists, it's going to give you something that has existed. But yeah, it has potential. I'm gonna look into it myself.
If the main thing we're talking about is plagiarism, the difference is
that, Tor, you're gonna have to get closer to your mic again. You're gonna have your voice.
I haven't moved. I haven't moved since the last time I talked. The difference to me when it's plagiarism, if that's the main topic we're talking about with all of this, and there's so many different things to talk about with it, is when a hack writer rips off somebody else's work, he's still making a conscious choice. And what we finally see is the result of their choices. And there are many pieces of art that I enjoy that are utterly derivative of other pieces of art, but the way they've been put together has been very creative. These things where that the house isn't structurally real, the guns aren't structurally real, the biology isn't structurally real, there isn't anything real here. And if it's supposed to be Baywatch, I never watched Baywatch, so I don't get the joke. But there certainly are a lot of these. Let's take things and make them look like they're made in the 50s, and it's sort of always like that. If you blink at this quickly, you could say this looks like early 60s.
And it's nothing that you would want to watch in long form either. It's great for a trailer, but if very little effort went into it, there's no reason to expect that anything particularly valuable is going to come out of it. So
I mean, generative processes are interesting and valid. I don't know if anybody else saw the documentary about Brian Eno that was playing here and there about a month ago. But he has all of these systems that he's designed himself for automatically generating songs and images and ideas. He has a deck of cards that he'll pull from with different prompts, and that's how he does it. He has some computer programs that do generative things to sort of help his process along. But I don't think he's just taking other people's stuff and mashing it together.
well, like you say, you have to bring something to the table. You have to do the
Right.
work. It's not a problem in itself that your work is derivative. Every work is derivative.
Yeah.
And then when everybody has the same tools, then the standards get raised too. So right now, somebody might be able to get a lot of attention if they make a full-length movie with some nice looking AI generated
Right.
imagery.
And
But that's not going to be the case a month from now. I mean, it's people are still going to have to work hard, but the results are going to be even more spectacular.
well, the fear that's going on right now with AI is that with AI libraries scraping the internet for content, there's going to be more and more AI generated content that they're scraping. It's going to become this recursive loop of less and less original element as we go.
Well, the big guys are not doing that anymore. They can't even afford to. They have to get permission for all of the data that they train their AIs on.
Yeah.
Now, open source folks might not be playing by those rules, but the big guys that are the ones to worry about are already paying for their source content. So that's not the problem. I think the problem is that people are worried for their jobs, and that's perfectly understandable because even if their jobs aren't going away, their jobs are going to change a lot, and they're going to have to get with the times to stay on top of it. And that just means that most of the drudgery that they've been doing, they can stop doing. They can start spending more time doing more of the really creative stuff. But, it does mean that people that don't necessarily want to change are going to have to change.
Somebody
that's
said,
the
hang
problem.
on a sec, I got a comment there. Somebody said stealing from one person is plagiarism, stealing from many people is research.
Pretty good.
Sure. There's a fine line. It's not going to go away. But yeah, everything's going to change, and lots of it's going to be amazing, and lots of people are going to have to get new jobs.
And we're going to look at this and see this as the beginning. The beginning of the beginning or the beginning of the end. Yes. And,
yeah, this stuff doesn't age well.
Indeed, yes. David asks, is that a straw in his pants or is he just happy to see us?
I was wondering about that too.
That's a bizarre artifact. So, Steve, this isn't a still frame that you ran through Layapix or converted through another app. This was a AI video that you captured frames from. Is that right?
Exactly.
Okay.
And I didn't do anything to it.
I wonder.
So, there could be some weird stereo artifacts from the fact that they're could conceivably be moving, but when you look at the clip, they look like they're just standing still. So this is pretty much the camera move, and the flaws are not noticeable because, as I said, it's a 37 frame clip, so it just zips by, and then it's replaced with a boat exploding. So
I'd be curious to compare this result with the result of an AI conversion of still and see what other errors it introduces there, because there are some things that I would imagine an AI converter would struggle with, like that straw in the pants, like the stretched face on the likeness in the middle ground there behind the guy in the red shirt. That weird growth coming out of his arm. It would be interesting.
You should try it. I mean, you just grab one of these two frames and see what the Leopix does with it.
Sometimes it's easier to fix up the flat photo before you start to convert it. So that weird straw would just disappear in the flatty, and the guy with the funny thing near his head would disappear.
I think the point is to see what would
Then
happen.
you convert it.
Instead of making it perfect. I mean, that's why I didn't do any touch up on this. Obviously, I could have moved or removed that growth from his arm and fixed the straw, but I wanted to show it exactly as the AI trailer showed it.
Are the cloud in the guy's head? And they're obviously not shooting at the same thing.
Yeah, the AI hasn't figured out what guns are actually for yet, but it knows that people hold them up.
Oh yeah, well, 3 months ago, AI couldn't figure out how many fingers were on a hand, but it's worked that out.
Yeah, they still struggle, but at least it's not always wrong.
Well, thank you, Steve. This one generated a lot of important discussion. I know there's a lot. Everyone has an opinion about the direction that generative AI is going. So thank you for sharing this.
All right. Well,
I'm going to move on to another one by Steve. I don't think this is an AI-generated image. No. Ireland Dock is the title. Where did this come from?
This is just a case of I went to YouTube and searched for drone footage, and I got this sort of travelogue of Ireland, and I just perused it until I found something I really liked. This, I believe, was in slow motion, so the drone was flying pretty fast. Just based on the fact that there was very little movement in the water. So I did no touch up to the water. And I thought, I thought it more or less works as a 3D picture.
I would spot out the bright specks at least. This might make a good subject for the tilt shift filter, just because it has that wide base.
Emphasize that miniaturization effect.
Yeah, make it look like little toys.
Oh, is that where you throw like the background out of focus?
Yep. Yeah, literally just like the top X% and the bottom X%. So in this case, maybe you blur the top third and the bottom, I don't know, 10% or less.
It's a great shot. It's beautifully composed. You pick great shots up from that drone, and it's only the guy walking that you could just quickly fix if you wanted to. Seems a bit of movement in that
I guess I missed him. Where's the guy walking?
In the middle of the platform.
The left image is two legs. He's in mid stride, and the second image on the right, he's sort of feet together. Yeah.
Oh, I see him.
I'm highlighting it. Let me see if I can highlight this on all of the views.
But for a moving shot, for a natural shot, that's a great pick of an image.
Thanks.
You've got great color on it also.
It's lovely image quality too. Did you have to do any work on that?
No, it was a pretty high resolution video.
That's very nice.
Yeah, I see him. Yeah, that would have been pretty easy to clone. I just didn't notice it. I spent a huge amount of time on one of the 4 pictures I submitted, and that'll all make sense when that picture shows up.
I sympathize with you because I know when I do all my conversions, there's 58 flaws in every one of them. You just forget them after a while.
Yeah, and this was I think an hour-long video, and I watched the whole thing and every shot that had a lateral movement in it had something, there was one that had a really nice sunset, and others that had really great composition. But this one I like because it had a little bit more color. It was Ireland, so there was lots of shots of green mountains.
And Steve, this is a video that you downloaded from YouTube and then manipulated in a video editing program to get your frames, you said?
That's right. I just went into DaVinci Resolve and picked out the frames I liked, and it has a frame extractor. You just hit a key and it saves it as a JPEG.
Is that a program or like an extension that you use, or is that something that's built into YouTube?
No, it's in DaVinci Resolve.
It's in DaVinci Resolve. Really interesting. So you
can I just used the 4K downloader to download the video, and then I loaded it into DaVinci, and then I could manipulate the frames. It's just much easier for me. It's just easier for me to step through frames, to compare one frame to another using the video editing program. It's just so much easier than YouTube.
Yeah, makes sense. Oh, I think you picked the right pair here. This one's very successful.
Thanks.
Did you do any saturation or anything on this, or is this how it came out of DaVinci Resolve?
It's probably very close. I normally do kind of like a camera raw. I have kind of my favorite settings, which just, reduces the gamma just a tiny bit, and maybe, 2% on the saturation. I remember this shot was pretty saturated, so I don't think I did very much to it.
It's very colorful. Okay, thank you, Steve. Next by Steve. This is one I know the source intimately. Popeye and the 40 Thieves is the title of the image. And I know Steve is an expert on the subject, so I will just leave it to him.
Well, this is, I'm sure Matt and Tor and some others will recognize that every time we have this category, that I'll pull out some, one of the old Fleischer, or in one case I did a George Pal Puppetoon. But for those that don't know, Max Fleischer, who animated Popeye, built this 3-dimensional set, and they look fantastic on screen. And it pretty much only it's a disc. It's a lazy Susan, so it can only be used for a lateral movement. So it's perfect. It's perfect for 3D. The only thing that's not perfect is there's always some character moving. So I had to, these are 2 frames where the characters are in different positions. So I had to do some touch up to the background for one of the eyes. But you get a pretty, I don't know if it's like the foreground is too close. I took 2 frames. I think there were a frame or maybe 2 frames in between, and maybe I went too far, but I really liked all that extra depth. and you know, it's never bothered me in a movie if there's something in the foreground that is, you know, breaking the frame line, because it just gives you that much more depth. So I don't know what it is with your mic. I can't explain why.
On my TV, it's pretty extreme with the foreground.
At least it's out of focus. That helps.
Yeah, it is very through the window.
We also have a window violation on the left-hand side, but I know I didn't want to go for too much of a vertical crop here, I'm sure.
I think the stereo window is pretty far back.
Yeah, I think I took this one into a stereo photo maker to try and push it back, and I guess I just didn't like it as much. Of course, it looks great for me using these. I haven't looked at this in any other way. I just do this because, you know, I can look at my computer, so I can work. When I put it over on my TV, I can't work on it. I can only, you know, go back, and then I have to export it. So that's why I like using these devices. But yeah, so it looks really good like this. Probably doesn't look that good on a TV set. And
Yeah, the Reddit folks pretty much agree with you on window placement. I think that in their case, it's because they tend to be free viewing on their cell phones.
Okay, yeah. So there's all kinds of different criteria.
It's a lot more forgiving. Yeah, the 3D TVs are the exact opposite.
Right.
Yeah, I've recently started posting stereo photos on Instagram, and I find the same thing, Melinda. The hypers are the only ones that get any attention. The stereo base that I use most of the time, that I prefer, is just not wide enough for people, I think, who are free viewing stereo on a small screen like a smartphone. They really want that hyper effect to really make it pop, and they want it through the window. They really want it in your face.
Yeah, it's funny. The idea extends to all art, I think, which is that all art is very dependent on the platform.
Very much so.
You pretty much need to produce your art with particular platforms in mind. I don't know why that is, but it seems to be a truism.
I think it's definitely true in stereo and in cinema in general. Watching 2001: A Space Odyssey on a 13-inch CRT on a VHS tape just isn't quite the same experience.
But even in something like sculpture, you need like some kind of a base.
There was a good anecdote. The movie American Beauty, when Sam Mendes was making that movie and Spielberg was the producer, DreamWorks, Spielberg gave him just one bit of advice, and that was to imagine a line of seats at the bottom of the frame. Just to
a line of what?
A line of seats, the audience in a theater, to imagine that as part of his compositions when he was setting up any of his shots, to just think of how it was going to look on a big screen.
I like that.
And just put that row of seats at the bottom, like Mystery Science Theater.
Lee points out that the Fleischer Studio also did some great Superman cartoons, that's for sure.
Let
Those
me
were,
say something about that.
please do.
A company called Plan D has recently released what they call a Blu-ray 3D Superman Max Fleischer Volume 1 3D. And it's supposed to be anaglyph and digital 3D. I have
We were
not
talking
played
about
it
this
yet. I
last week, I
just got
think.
it.
I
Yeah,
actually
we were
mentioned that. I mentioned that just last week.
Oh, good.
So
I'm
so you
very,
bought it. Lee, you bought that disc?
Yes, I have not opened it. It just came in the last 2 or 3 days.
I'm very curious to see how they resolve Superman's costume for red and blue anaglyph.
A good point.
Well, you
Yeah.
can see that they posted a few minutes online in Anaglyph, so you can easily see what that looks like without even buying the disc. But yeah, I have no intention of looking at the Anaglyph version when I buy it. I'm going to just look at the side by side one.
Well, I just put a link to the disc in the chat, and there is an anaglyph, sort of a promo image that I just took off their website and posted in the chat. And Superman's costume looks terrible in Anaglyph. It is like Rivalry City.
The same company has done the old movie The Brain That Wouldn't Die in 3D. Haven't played that yet. I've seen it in 2D. It's a woman who would not die.
Yeah,
It's actually kind of a neat movie thematically. I'm surprised nobody's done a feminist remake.
Also, they did His Girl Friday, which has Cary Grant in it. I've got to
Yeah,
watch
Rob-
these very soon.
Yeah, that's actually a great movie. I think it just fell into it probably accidentally fell into public domain. It's a classic. I think is that a Howard Hawks?
Yeah.
I recall the Internet Archive had a screening of His Girl Friday maybe a year ago, and it had fallen. They were celebrating that it had fallen in the public domain. It was, as I recall, it had been overlooked or something, or maybe there was something missing in the credits or something. It was some kind of unusual thing, but for whatever reason, it was in the public domain, and the Internet Archive screened it.
Yes, Howard Hawks, 1940.
Yeah, I think a
Black
lot
and
of
white.
Glacier stuff is also in the public domain. I know that the features, Gulliver's Travels and Mr. Bug Goes to Town, are in the public domain. I think the Superman cartoons are in the public domain because that's how they can release it in 3D. And I believe what happened is that there was a miscommunication between the Fleischer brothers and Paramount Studio, that each one thought the other was going to renew the copyright, and so nobody did. It certainly seems like something Paramount would really want to do, but for whatever reason, it doesn't seem to be any solid information. That's just speculation.
Well, good luck for us. We get to see some things.
Right. Well, I'm very curious about this new trend industry in converting public domain movies to 3D. What an interesting idea. I wish I had thought of it. Something I might want to explore myself.
I even think these Popeye two-reelers are public domain.
I'm pretty sure these are public domain. I have them on all sorts of no-name discs. And I find that it's hard to find good quality versions of these two-reelers. I did put a link in the chat to the full cartoon. I'm not familiar with the YouTube channel, but it is a better quality than some of the other versions I've seen on YouTube. definitely worth checking out. Of course, it's not in 3D, but you'll see why it makes such a great subject using this special effect that Steve described, this big lazy Susan, basically. It really, really calls out for being turned into a found stereo pair. So check it out. Not now, though, after the meeting.
The best masters and transfers are probably the Warner Brothers box set, which have all of the color shorts, and they're divided up by decade. The 30s set is the one to get. Although I've had trouble finding copies of that set where the discs hadn't rotted in one way or another.
Oh dear.
A very low quality run for whatever reason, but the supplements in theory are fantastic. Lots of animators doing commentary, lots of lost early silent footage. It's just the discs. I keep buying copies of this one box set, and it keeps being just physically crap.
Wow.
Which set? Which set is that, Tor?
The Warner Brothers Popeye 32 to 38.
Oh. Just that one, not the other sets?
Oh, I'm not interested in the later Popeyes, so I haven't tried buying them.
Oh, because I have all of them. And I mean, I watched them when I first got them, but that was many years ago.
Yeah, I keep trying to pick up a copy of that set, and there's always like 2 out of 3 discs has a flaw.
Tor, do you know what year
if
that
mine
set
works,
was released?
you're welcome to copy it.
All right, what was that, Matt?
Do you know what year that box set was released? Just out of curiosity.
I want to say 2008, maybe. John Crick-Falusi is one of the commentators, so it's before he got canceled.
Okay, well, what a shame.
Is there a place to find public domain on famous people like Taylor Swift and everyone like that? A site somewhere?
I don't think there's going to be a public domain Taylor Swift for a while. But Internet Archive is what you want to be looking at.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. We've got one more by Steve for tonight. You've got to explain this one, Steve. Tiger 3D is the title. I know we've seen this technique before.
Matt, you may recall that I did an experiment like this with a guy running, and I found a footage of a person on a green screen, and then I was able to, with some of the tools, video tools, in that case it was Premiere, and make a line around it, and then just take that and by moving it, it's just flat, but by changing the angle of the motion, introduce some depth. So these are just sequential frames. It was a very time-consuming process. I had to kind of reinvent what I had done before because I'm no longer using the Adobe products. So I was able to do everything with DaVinci Resolve and Affinity, but I just had to figure out how to do it, and it kind of attacks DaVinci Resolve because I ended up doing it. Each outline is a layer, so the thing has maybe nearly 100 layers, which is a lot of. I mean, the most layers I've ever had in a film is maybe 10. So this is quite a bit more, but that was the way that worked. And it works in motion. I could see this 3D in motion, but when I tried to render it, the thing froze. It actually didn't freeze. It just said can't render. It didn't tell me why. So I was able to output this to Affinity. And I need to go back in and work on it, but I wanted to get some input, see what people think, if it's worth pursuing. I remember, Matt, you were a little bit encouraging about this idea. So this is just a tiger. It's a CG tiger walking slowly and then walking fast and then running and jumping. And then I edited it, sped it up, and then took the green screen, made it into a line, and then moved it in one eye and then re-rendered it so that the movement goes left to right a little bit differently for the other eye. And that introduces the depth. There is no depth. It's not a 3D image or anything. So I think I'd like to pursue this some more. Obviously, the images that in the foreground are too far apart. But you can get some sense of depth.
Oh, I like the idea a lot. I remember when you did that, it definitely has promise. I think it still does.
Thank you.
I can see the cat now that you mentioned it. The two things sticking up at the top are the tail.
Yeah, I almost was going to remove because it's just there twice, but I thought, well, I'll just let it go as is.
No, it's fine. I mean, I think this is better than the previous ones, though I don't remember exactly how they looked, but I think this one makes more sense in 3D. The foreground is of course extreme, but that's understood. So it looks like you're getting control over the technique. I'd like to see you keep going.
Yeah, I think what I need to do is bunch them up, like take 10 levels and then render them out, and then just put that as one level. Kind of the way they used to do multi-track recording, back in the days of the Beatles before they could do, huge numbers of overdubbing. I don't know if everybody knows the way they used to record. They could only do 4 tracks at one time, and they would take like 4 instruments, record it, mix it down to 1, and then they do it again and mix those down to 1, and then they could take 4 of those and mix it. So you could just by re-recording get more than one. So I think I have to do the same thing, because every one of those little outlines was a separate layer in the DaVinci, in my video editing program. So that was just too taxing for it.
There's a lot of nice detail in there too. If you zoom in, I think it gets more interesting.
Yeah, so I think maybe I'll do. I remember what I did before was I also changed the level dark to light. So in the background it was darker, and I think that would help here.
You could also try a color gradient.
Yeah, I think I did experiment with that as well on the other one. And that, as I recall, I think was a little too much, but I could try it again.
Yeah, sort of like ChromaDepth.
That'll be interesting. Although hopefully we'll be able to do this so we have full control over the depth.
Yeah, I think this is very successful, Steve. I think that it's easier to view than the previous one you showed us using this technique. I would suggest you have the most foreground outline, which is, a bit through the window, to me is the most clear outline of a tiger of all of these, but the outlines behind it kind of conflict with it. So I would keep the most foreground outline and remove I don't know how many outlines there are, 1 or 2 that are, behind it that sort of intersect it. If you were to remove those, I think it would make that outline more clear, and it would really kind of pull everything together, if that makes sense.
Sure. Or the other thing is, I think I might have the capability to make it solid so that it would be an outline, and then anything inside the outline would be black.
That might help also, yeah. Maybe do it just for that top foreground outline.
I just noticed that the dense background stuff seems to make a lot more sense in pseudo stereo.
Well, I'm sorry, I missed that. What were you saying?
In pseudo, the image in pseudo, the background stuff seems to make more sense because there seems to be a depth to the lines, like some of the lines get dimmer, and in the version that you created, it's the dim lines that are in the front and the bright lines are in the back. But if you reverse that, then the dimming goes into the background, and it looks more like a 3D wireframe object.
Oh, yes, I see what you mean. That's a good call. And I don't even know how I was able to make those. It should have been all pure white, but something, some setting was not right, which actually has a nice effect. If it wasn't, well, can I reverse these? I could probably figure out a way to reverse these. I think it wouldn't be too hard.
Well, you want to know what you did to get that gradient effect, because if they were all the same brightness, then you wouldn't get that nice effect.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it's a CG tiger on a green screen that I just picked up from YouTube, and then I found a tool called edge detection in DaVinci, and the edge detection actually has a slider. So it automatically makes a line. What's really interesting about that is that I looked at least half a dozen tutorials. Everybody had a different technique, and almost all of them were incredibly complicated. And then I found one that said use edge detection, and it's like a one-step process. You hit the button that says edge detection, and it puts a line around it. And everybody else was like, okay, go in here, isolate it, do this, connect it. You have to go and make a graph, and it's like incredibly complicated. So there's so many ways to solve these problems. But yeah, I don't know why the edge. I think it's a flaw that ends up having a nice effect. Matt?
Yeah, I think you should continue working on this, Steve. I think you're very close.
Yeah, and it's much easier to tell what you're looking at when you see it in motion. So I'm contemplating using this for a film, because I have an idea for another 3D film that I'm going to work on when I get finished with the film I'm doing now. So there's some potential there.
Oh, I can't wait to see that development. Are you thinking of animating this, of having each outline come in, draw, something like that?
No, I mean, it would just be the motion of the tiger walking. And you would see it, and it would leave after images.
I see.
Not unlike the classic Norman McLaren film, Pas de Deux. And anybody who's not familiar with Norman McLaren, or the film Proud to Do, you're in for a treat. Look them up. The best there is. Not kidding.
Indeed. And Steve, if you want to put a link to that in the chat, I encourage you to do it.
Let's go find it. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Steve. It's very exciting.
Thanks, everyone.
I can't wait to see where you take this technique. Oleg, thank you for your patience. I think I put you up first last week. You're near the end tonight. We have 4 found stereo images from Oleg. The first one is called Military Parade at the Kremlin. Oleg, where'd you find this?
All 4 of them were just taken off my 3D TV.
And how did you capture them? Did you photograph the screen?
Yeah, I photographed the screen.
Okay. Did you put polarized lenses on your cameras? Is that how you did this?
No, it was a video
Okay.
play.
So this is motion and you've grabbed 2 frames.
Yes.
Got it. Got it.
One of the problems I encountered is the street was not flat. There was like a 6-inch depth problem, and I didn't realize it until later is that those guys were marching. So between the 2 frames, they didn't stay in the plane that they were supposed to. Took me a long time to put them on the proper level.
Why is it so grainy too?
It's just the way my TV is. It didn't come out well on the TV.
That's too bad. I've never seen it like this. It's like extreme HDR or something. Yeah.
Oleg, did you
Strange
adjust
effect.
the colors or the saturation after you got this off the TV?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you should probably consider the technique I was talking about earlier of just downloading the video and then editing it.
Was this a live TV, Oleg? Was this a video you streamed?
Yeah, it's a video. No, this is live TV.
Live TV.
Oh, that's a little more difficult.
Oh yeah, that's a lot of little marching soldiers to manipulate down there to fix that motion there.
I just changed the groups. That was enough to get them more or less where they should be. There's about 6 groups there of marchers.
If you hadn't done that, I imagine they'd probably be like embedded in the ground.
Exactly. That's what I saw.
Right.
Did Oleg, did you by any chance look and see if there's any footage of the Kremlin online?
Why would that, for what purpose?
So you could get a cleaner image. Maybe somebody has done, a drone shot similar to this.
That would be impossible for me to do.
Yeah. It wouldn't, I mean, even if it was the same angle, you wouldn't have the soldiers, the military there. But you could put, nah, I don't know if you can put that back in. We gotta figure this out. There's got to be a way to do that. So when you said live TV, this was something that you just saw and you snapped some pictures off of what you were watching while you were watching it?
No, I had saved it. Uh, um,
You recorded it
yeah, I recorded it.
on like a DVR?
Yeah. Well, no, my TV records stuff.
Well, yeah, you sounds like you have a DVR. Right?
I
The
took a
TiVo?
picture. I took a picture of something I recorded. I don't understand.
Yeah, so that is an issue, because they've made it more difficult to get the information out of your DVR than it used to be. Although I think I have a way you can take like an HDMI cable, and I have a capture device. I haven't needed to do that. Almost everything I've ever wanted shows up on YouTube, so I just look for it there. There's so much there. It's an astonishing amount of material. But yeah, there's a way to get an image off of a DVR without having to record the screen. But I don't want to give you the idea that it's easy. But there's a way to do it.
Well, thank you, Oleg. I do think that photographing a TV screen is a legitimate technique. You're not going to get the same resolution as the original, but this definitely has its own visual quality, and it's not bad. And it's got great depth, too. Let's look at another one, I'm sure using the same technique. This is opera singer and her piano accompanist.
Right. This was, yeah, it was an opera program, about an hour long, and I guess they were using one of those overhead cameras to take pictures of the people, the singer and it was very difficult to get them in the same place because besides going side by side, they're going in depth, backwards and forward. So I had to adjust the size of things.
Did you have to scale these images to get them to match?
They were pretty close. I just had to move them a bit.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
they match.
The alignment looks really good.
It's got too much depth. You can see in the front, his arms are too far apart. Now that was another problem with this one is he was playing a very fast. I had to fake in the hands.
I'm pretty sure Stereo Photomaker helps resolve some of those issues if the camera is moving a little bit closer to the subject in one frame than the next. The Stereo Photomaker will try to correct that.
Well, I tried it. No, it was completely confused by the picture.
I know I did it once and it was successful, but yeah, it maybe depends on on what kind of motion it is and what kind of information is in the scene.
I like this a lot. I like it with the text and the border, and I like everything you've done.
Yeah, I think this is the kind of photo that I wish I could take. I wish I had access to that location, being that close to the stage, being that close to the pianist. I don't think you could get this shot any other way. All right, thank you, Oleg. Next by Oleg. Same technique is Exxon Refinery.
And this was for a documentary about how Exxon lied about global warming.
Now, did you have to work on that that smoke? It looks. I don't detect any retinal rivalry.
I didn't do any work on that.
Okay.
It was lucky.
Clouds are pretty forgiving just because you don't really expect a particular shape. Seems like tree branches and stuff moving, same kind of thing. It'll change the angle of the branches, but they're all believable, so it looks fine.
Clouds are different than smoke. But yeah, maybe if it's a big enough thing, and it's possible that this is slow motion, because I noticed a lot of those drone shots they record at a high speed and then slow it down. But the scale, because it's a huge plume of smoke, might not be moving that fast. That's the key. So, yeah, you're right. It's lucky. This is really amazing looking. Great depth, pretty good detail.
And this is another subject where you normally wouldn't be able to get that close or fly your own drone that close. I will say that Chevron had, or they are having their annual open house. This is the Chevron refinery in Richmond, my hometown. And I don't think they even allow you to take photos. It's they're very, very secretive, very security minded at these refineries. So that's probably not a photo you could have taken on your own without getting in some trouble.
Well, I used to work there, so they probably wouldn't have noticed.
Would your ID badge still work?
Let's see if I can remember how I got in.
Only one way to find out.
Well, it's a great subject. I've always wanted to shoot the Chevron refinery in Richmond, but there just really aren't a lot of angles for that I can get a shot.
Well, how about using a drone?
If only I had a drone. Someday.
They might not be happy about that either.
Yeah, I don't think they allow it.
If you're not on their property or over their property.
They might shoot it down anyway.
Yeah, there are a lot of restrictions about using a drone. Someday.
A refinery in Richmond here in the East Bay would shoot down somebody's drone camera? They would actually do that?
I would not be surprised.
I would
God.
definitely expect that they would track down the owner and cite that person.
Well, not them, but Homeland Security.
If you flew
Right.
your drone, like if you went on the public street and just flew it high enough that you could see it, but you're not over their property, I don't believe there's anything they could do.
Yeah, I agree.
But try that at an airport or something. You'll get arrested immediately.
Well, if you're on the airport property,
No, if you're just on a street that's like right next to the
yeah, you can.
to the airstrip or something.
You think that would? Well, yeah, there may be an issue about airspace, but if
It's a
you-
controlled airspace, and the refinery might also have a small controlled airspace as well. It's I think it's pretty serious business. I don't think he'll.
Yes.
Point taken.
According to the FAA, it's legal to fly a drone so long as it's in your line of sight and below 400 feet, and it is illegal to capture photos without permission, according to California Civil Code Section 1708.8. So you're definitely asking for trouble. I would recommend shooting the TV screen instead. Thank you, Oleg. We have one more by Oleg. And this is Medieval Village displayed in a museum diorama.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the name of the guy that does those travel documentaries in Europe and around the world.
You talking about
Rick Steves?
Rick Steves?
Yeah, Rick Steves. This is one picture that they took in a museum, and they did a dolly shot, I think they call it, of the diorama, and then took two frames of that. They had a plastic screen to keep people from poking it, so I had to take out some of the reflections that were coming in from the back.
With the lower resolution of this photo, it's not immediately obvious if this is a diorama at first glance. I thought it was an actual village.
It's really well done.
Yeah, it's a great
I believe
subject.
I'm seeing some retinal rivalry in the house on the right. And
That's a reflection from the glass.
Yeah,
Glass between us and the diorama.
there were a lot of reflections that I was bound to miss something.
yeah.
This one works particularly well on our anaglyph stream. I think it's, fairly monochromatic. And it looks like there's a little bit of depth. That's probably an optical illusion in the painted backdrop of this diorama.
It looks like the castle on the hill is sculpted right up against the backdrop.
Yeah. Forced perspective.
Yeah.
Joe writes, very clear spatial depth. Yes, indeed.
I'm going to see what we're going to have a black and white special. Maybe get rid of the color might be easier to look at.
It's definitely worth trying. I find this one to be pretty easy to view. It's just a bit grainy is all, which I think is just a part of your technique.
Well, it's because it was taken. When the video was made at the scene, it depends on what kind of camera he was using, how much detail he captures.
Sure, and how fast they were tracking and how much light they had to work with. All of that is out of your control. We're at the mercy of the camera operator with these found stereos. Well, yeah, give this one a try in black and white and share it with us either at that black and white special, or you can always enter it as an open if you don't want to wait. Well, thank you, Oleg. So the next one is mine, and it's not a still. I've got a video tonight, so we're going to try something new. I am reasonably sure that this is going to stream fine on our half-width side-by-side YouTube channel and on our Anaglyph YouTube channel. And I'll also stream a full-width side-by-side version. It's kind of low resolution, but I'll stream that on the Zoom screen share for the free viewers who we have here. Now, we haven't really done video since we've been meeting online. This is going to be kind of an experiment, which is why I'm offering this link in case it blows up. I might need to ask you just to go and watch it on YouTube. I did post it on YouTube, and there is a QR code and a link to that. But before I show this video, I wanted to get back to the chat, which I've kind of neglected. And Joe put in a very interesting link of a 3D photo drawing. And I'm just going to share that real quick on the Zoom screen share, if I can make this work. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but it is a beautiful rendering. And he also posted a very interesting, a 3D drawer made by a friend from France. Joe, if you're still here, do you want to share a few words about what we're seeing here? He is in China, and might be a little late, but this is the illustration. See if I can get this to fit the screen. There we go. And it really is quite beautiful, and I just wanted to make sure that everyone had a chance to see it. I don't know much about the technique, but there's a few details in the chat to take a look at.
I'm guessing it was just painted by hand and eye.
I think so, yeah. It looks like there is a drawing device. Let me see if I can show that. Here it is. This is a little smaller, but it looks like this device consists of a drawing surface and a viewer and some sort of connected or synchronized rig. So it looks to me like two pencils can be controlled at once. Very,
Oh, I
very
assumed it was
interesting
just for
device.
3D viewing while drawing.
I think that's what it is, yeah.
No, I mean just with a single pencil, but you might be right.
We'll have to get some more information later. But I thought this was a very beautiful rendering, and I wanted to be sure that everyone had a chance to see it. For those who are watching the YouTube stream, you'll have to take my word for it. Unfortunately, I don't have it queued up for that. So that said, let me get back to this grand experiment, the video. Tor, did you have something you wanted to share?
Well, I was wondering if Mr. Joe was going to say anything about about the work.
Joe, if you're here, I'm not sure if he's.
He is, yes.
Oh,
Can't
Joe,
hear
I think
you.
you're muted. Yeah.
I don't know that he's muted because he had the mute symbol.
No, he's not muted.
And he turned that off, so he's unmuted himself, but
Maybe Joe, you're having trouble with your microphone. We can come back to this. And if we don't hear from you tonight, we'll hear from you next month. But thank you for sharing it.
Yeah, we still can't hear you. It's beautiful.
All right, let's shift modes and get to our video. Let me share this here. Okay. It'll take me just a minute to get this set up. Okay, there is my Zoom share. And let's get the Zoom started. This is a silent video, and I'll just talk over it. And I would very much appreciate your feedback as well. Let me just get this playing here. And if you're following along on Zoom, there's going to be like a little player in the way. There we go. And that'll disappear in a few moments. So let me explain what we're looking at. This is a slow motion video that I captured back in February using the slow motion feature on my iPhone. And I didn't originally capture it with the intention of making a 3D project out of it, but it was just after a rainstorm, and I really liked the quality of the light and the reflections that I was seeing. And so I shot this through the window of a moving BART train on my commute home. And kind of forgot about it, but when we had this special, it occurred to me that I could pull some stills out of this video and make some side-by-sides. And I was working on that, and then it occurred to me, well, maybe I can use that technique and make a whole video out of it. So what I've done here is I've taken that video. The video, incidentally, was shot at HD resolution at 120 frames per second. I fired up my copy of Magic's Movie Edit Pro 2013, which still works great in Windows 10. And it has built-in 3D support. I think a few of us are probably familiar with this program. And I was able to make a copy of the video and use that as a stereo pair, and then offset those two videos by just a frame or two. And I did a little bit of horizontal adjustment to keep it in the window. But that's really all this is. It's the same video, just sort of 2 frames off. And I thought that the effect was very pronounced. I thought it was very interesting. And I am thinking about taking this further and doing something creative with it. And I'd be very interested in anyone's thoughts or opinions about that.
Well, is this intended to be like 1 frame a second? Or is that just how it's streaming?
You know, you're probably seeing it. No, it's supposed to be full motion video. So in your case, you might want to actually watch it on YouTube.
Yeah, so this is interesting to me because I've seen people do this many times, especially on Reddit. They'll take a piece of video like this and do the 2 copies thing, but it's always it always strikes me that it's a little bit wasted, in that even just a single eye gets a true stereo effect. So the extra copy and using both eyes, it feels a little more immersive, but I think it has the same emotional effect. But what I was getting from your video streaming was about 1 frame a second, which was a very different experience than just a simply 2 copies of a video, because it's a series of stills. I mean, a video is a series of stills, but when you can see them and examine each one, for like a whole second, it's a whole different experience. It's more of a slideshow or a montage or something. So I know that wasn't your intention, but the result was really striking, and that's what I'd be interested in seeing explored more.
Okay.
I've got a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Are you there? I got a question.
Yeah,
Can you hear me?
I
Yeah.
can hear you.
So when you come into the station and slow down, does the stereo effect diminish?
You can see it diminish at the end of the video. Yeah, it goes flat when the train stops.
Yeah, well, I'm seeing it the same as Melinda, where I can't see that because I'm seeing
Okay.
1 frame per second.
You don't have the YouTube stream?
No. What is there a place? Is there a link for that?
Yeah, let me show you. So I think it's probably not streaming very smoothly on the Zoom screen share, which doesn't really surprise me, given bandwidth and all that. But it is posted on YouTube, so if you're interested in seeing it in sort of full motion, here's the link. You can maybe watch it on a phone or a tablet, or you can watch it later, of course. Let me put this link in the chat also. Now, David is noting that the half-width side-by-side stream looks smooth. And I saw the same thing on my Loom pad, as well as the Anaglyph channel, but I think that the Zoom screen share probably did struggle. I'll also put, if you're really interested, I'll put a download link. It's a pretty big download, about 250 megabytes, but it's an option.
And of course, it'll be on the archived version of this meeting when we're done.
It will, yes. There's a
So where do you find that, the archive?
On YouTube. It's the YouTube stream.
I've never gone to the YouTube stream. Do you just?
Oh, you're missing out.
Well, is the YouTube screen Anaglyph?
we have two YouTube
well, there's an
streams.
anaglyph and a side-by-side. If you search Golden Gate Stereoscopic Society, you'll see the last couple of videos that have gone up.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll go there.
Yeah, and I'll put the I'll put those links in the chat too. So Steve, I know that you follow along with the screen share, but we do have 2 live YouTube streams. One is half-width side-by-side for TVs and tablets and that kind of thing. And then we also have an Anaglyph stream for those who prefer red cyan glasses. But the video that I showed is also posted separately if you want to watch it and you want to watch it in full motion, as I said. However, Melinda, that's a very interesting reaction. I certainly could set this up as a slideshow of stills. And in a way, it's kind of already on that path because there are a lot of edits, a lot of cuts where I had to cut out trees that blocked the view and that were really in front of the window, just kind of painful to look at.
There were some that were pretty close, but it was interesting to see that too. But I want to ask Steve, since you had the same experience I did with like 1 frame a second, what did you think?
Yeah, I had almost exactly the same reaction, that I was really enjoying seeing that quick slideshow of individual frames. Each one was pretty interesting looking and had a very effective depth. It almost was good because, seeing it just 1 frame at a time, even if you had a person in there, probably wouldn't be able to tell that it didn't match up. It was because it was just going fairly rapidly.
In full motion at 120 frames a second, I didn't notice any real problems with the people moving around. They seemed pretty well
right.
solid.
At that high speed photography, that would correct a lot of errors that you would get.
Yeah. It's interesting because just earlier in this meeting, we were talking about how the medium that you experience the art in changes how you experience it.
Yeah, very true.
Losing you again.
Just talking about earlier in this meeting, we were talking about how the medium of the photo makes a difference, how wide base shots play well on the Instagram, not so well on the TV and things like that. It's a similar thing where you're watching it on the Zoom and you're having a completely different experience than if you're watching the YouTube.
Right.
Well, yeah, it's striking to me how what a big difference that was. It's not just slow motion or anything. It's it's like a slideshow or something.
And watching the full motion video version, you can definitely see that depth change. I did select, sort of customize the number of frames separation per clip. But, that's only so accurate. Of course, the train is speeding up and slowing down also. And that adjusts, that changes the depth. And that's something I might want to play with creatively also.
I'll add that the effect is not dissimilar from when I watched, I think it was the Rose Parade in was it the Pulfric process?
Right, that's the chroma-depth process, isn't it?
Not chroma depth. The Pulfric, I believe, there's a technique where you darken one eye.
Yeah.
And because it's darker, it enters your brain a fraction of a second later. So anything that involves a lateral movement, like what you have here, is seen in 3D on a normal TV set.
Yeah.
And so when the parade was moving, it was an elaborate float with a lot of depth to it. It had a 3D effect. And as soon as it slowed down, it just went flat.
Yeah, I remember there was a 3D Super Bowl halftime back in the 80s, I think, that did that. You pick up the Proofread glasses at 7-Eleven, and as long as stuff was moving left to right, you were fine.
I saw some screening at the PFA where they handed out not glasses, but a little square that you just hold up to your eye, and the filmmaker just showed some random films, just stuff they had found that had camera movement in it, just like what you have here.
Effective.
All right. Well, thank you all. That concludes our slideshow for the evening, but we're not quite done yet. We have one more critical task, and that is to make our selections on our poll. Let me put that link in the chat. And let me share my screen and pull that link up. And I'll do the same on our YouTube streams as well. So, as many of us know, we like to vote on our personal favorites. While this is not a competition, everyone wants to know which ones actually were the favorites. So, okay. The slideshow links will be coming up on the YouTube streams, and it is up on the Zoom screen share. If you are interested and if you are able to, please go to this link, strawpoll.com/ggss. There is a QR code there if you'd like to do this on your smartphone or tablet. I'll run through the slideshow again. I'll just spend 2 or 3 seconds per image. I will read the titles and say the name of the maker as well. And then in the poll, select your top 3 and I'll show the results. Let me give everyone just a minute to get themselves together. I need to grab my phone because I haven't voted yet, and then we'll go through the slideshow. Just give me 10 seconds. Okay, I'm going to go through the slideshow. The welcome slide is not part of the voting. We'll start off with Creating Carbon Composites by Melinda. High and Low by Melinda. How the U.S. Took Over the World by Melinda. The Martian by Melinda. Baywatch Badasses by Steve. Ireland Doc by Steve. Popeye 40 Thieves by Steve. Tiger 3D by Steve. Military Parade at the Kremlin by Oleg. Opera Singer and Her Piano Accompanist by Oleg. Exxon Refinery by Oleg. Medieval Village Displayed in a Museum Diorama by Oleg. And then finally, the video Plaza to Del Norte by Matt. So let's take 30 or 60 seconds and make our selections. And we'll give it another few moments before I show the results. In the meantime, Joe did put in some details in the chat about the drawing tool we saw. There are two pencils to draw the left and the right images. I'd love to see this invention in action. I doubt I have the artistic skill to produce anything as fine as the drawing that was shared, but clearly in the right hands, it's a real artist's tool. Okay, does anyone need more time? Let me pull up the results here. While I'm doing that, I want to remind everyone that our next meeting is our November meeting. That will be Tuesday, November 5th. And the special subject, which you really don't need to submit until the Sunday before our second November meeting on the 12th. But in any case, black and white is that special subject. I think Oleg had mentioned that. And Oleg, we'd love to see your medieval village diorama found photo in black and white if you'd like to share that with us. But let me share our results. For those on the YouTube stream, you'll just have to take my word for it. Steve's Ireland doc was tied with Oleg's Opera Singer and Her Piano Accompanist for first place. We have a tie for second between Melinda's How the U.S. Took Over the World and my Plaza to Del Norte, and we will call Third Oleg's Exxon Refinery. So thank you, everyone, for participating. This is always good to know. Before we close, I wanted to give a recap of the movies that we talked about. Starting with the flat ones, we talked about Popeye. These 2 real color cartoons have... Steve, what is the name of that device, that invention that the Fleischer Studio used, that lazy student?
Call it the stereooptical device.
The stereooptical device.
Process.
The Fleischer brothers were sons of an Austrian tailor who took his family to
Oh.
America in
It's
1887.
normally referred to as like a setback or a turntable, but it's his on the movie. It says stereooptical, and I always thought stereo meant 2, like for audio and for pictures, and it turns out it just means spatial,
Solid.
Solid.
It means
yeah.
solid. Yeah.
Well,
So it's actually a more accurate description of that process than of binocular photography.
Yeah.
Let's see. We talked about some Supermans, the Fleischer Supermans. This is not a 3D copy, but that is now available. The Martian, great 3D movie. Inferno, definitely in my top 3. Tor's got his up too, and his Martian. We're gonna battle them out right now.
That's right.
And let's not forget Hugo, another great suggestion. And it looks like Tor's got a much nicer box set for Hugo.
This is the Arrow Blu-ray 4K. It's very nice, and it includes the 3D version.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Before we wrap it up tonight, does anyone have anything they would like to announce or share?
Everybody go see The Wild Robot while it's still in 3D in theaters.
Yeah,
really, really good.
Really, really good. Oh, I forgot the most important thing. I am planning a luncheon for this group in Point Richmond. I am tentatively planning on the Golden Gate Bistro, although there were some other suggestions for the Thai restaurant in Point Richmond. But let me put this in our chat. This is the Golden Gate Bistro. The Golden Gate Bistro isn't in downtown Point Richmond, but it's very close. If you would like to come and maybe spend the morning or the afternoon photographing Point Richmond, there's one option. And I think that the day that most people were available is Saturday, October 19th. For those who are in this meeting right now and who can make it to Point Richmond, would Saturday the 19th work? Does anyone have any...
What time?
Well, we can discuss that. It would probably be a little bit before noon. I'm thinking maybe 11:30 or so.
I have a thing that morning on the 19th.
How about the 26th? Or how about later in the day on the 19th?
Probably later we find. I'll be in San Francisco from 10 to 12 on the 19th. I just happen to know that.
Okay.
What if we did it toward the end of the day with the golden hour option?
On the 26th, Pete Docter is going to be at the Disney. I see he's going to be at ILM, talking about his new book, directing at Disney. So I'm definitely going to be there.
So it sounds like later in the afternoon on the 19th might be the date that works for the most people. Okay, I'm not hearing any objections. So Let's plan on that. I'll be sending out an invitation to that probably tomorrow. And it's just been so long since we've met in person, since we've seen each other in the flesh. This won't be a Golden Gate Stereoscopic Society meeting because I don't think I'll be able to bring the TV and set it up and all that. I've already griped to everyone here about how much harder that is now, although I am working on a solution. Let's get together and get some lunch and maybe take some pictures together. And it would just be great to see everyone and talk shop. So I'll be sending out an invitation. All are welcome, of course. And we'll see everyone on the afternoon. Let me make a note here. Afternoon of the 19th. Maybe around 2, 3 o'clock, something like that.
Or later. I mean, if we want to get
Or
a nice
later.
light, then that's probably around 5 o'clock. So if we got together at like, I don't know, 3 o'clock or something, then there would be time for photo shoots and stuff afterwards.
And Tor, that would probably give you some breathing room also.
Yeah, I think so.
Now, I think a lot of the restaurants, there aren't a lot of restaurants in Point Richmond, but I know some restaurants kind of close after lunch before dinner. So I'm not sure if the Golden Gate Bistro will be open at that time, which is no big loss. It's just a suggestion. There are other places also. So let me also look around and see what our options are where we can get something to eat. But I like that plan, and I think we all know that Point Richmond is a nice scenic little village. I've dragged you all down there before, and I had a good time, so let's do it again. All right, so watch your inbox for that. Does anyone have anything else they'd like to add?
Well, I have a non-3D related thing, but at the Mill Valley Festival, I saw this film called Amelia Perez, and it really blew me away. So if you get a chance to see it on the big screen, you should do that. It's a musical in Spanish. Zoe Saldana, and have you heard of it, Tor? Are you familiar with it?
We'll be getting it at the Upper Plaza. Yeah. Yeah, after the festival, it'll have a commercial run at the Upper Plaza Cinema.
Yeah, I think it did very well at the Cannes Film Festival. And I'm just a fan of musicals. It's very unusual. It's about a drug lord who gets a sex change operation. I'm not giving anything away. That's in the blurb. So, really astonishing film.
Well, there's a link to it in the chat.
All right. Not in 3D, sorry.
I have a question for Melinda. She mentioned groups on Reddit. Now I'm wondering what subreddit groups.
Crossview.
Crossview. Excellent, thanks.
Sure. There's also a parallel view, but they don't have nearly as much action.
Okay, check them out.
And that is also in the chat. Melinda, do you contribute to this subgroup?
I do. In fact, I had the honor of having the #1 image of all time there.
Oh, right on.
The X-ray I had of my hand. You may recall.
I vividly recall that one, yeah.
It shot immediately to like second place, and then over time it slowly got more votes and has been in first place for a few years now.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. I'm rather proud of that.
Yeah, I'm posting on Instagram now, but so far the feedback has been pretty underwhelming.
Yeah, different audiences, different cultures.
Yeah. All right. Well, with that, I'm going to call it a night. Thank you, everyone, for staying a little late. Appreciate it.
All right. Especially for checking in from China.
Yes.
Good to see you here. Hope to see you again.
Well,
I guys want to hear from you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry
maybe
about
we'll work
the
out the
technical
sound
glitch.
issues next time.
We really appreciate you sharing. Really appreciate you being here. And we will see you next month. All right, everyone. Have a great evening. I'll be sending out some more information in the coming days. But thank you, everyone. Had a fantastic slideshow tonight. I had a blast. We'll see you next month. Good night, everyone.
All right.